The other opening where we had some very interesting suggestions in original Crushing Lines video was Panov-Botvinnik Attack in Caro-Kann. So what we had, now I'm going to give you the updated and upgraded version of it. E4, C6, D4, D5, ED, CD, C4, knight F6, knight C3, and here black practically has three moves: E6, G6, and knight C6. Line we were discussing is with the most, by far the most popular move, which is E6. And it went like knight F3, bishop E7, C takes D, knight takes D5, bishop D3, castling, castling. And that's another position after knight C6 and rook E1, where black has a couple of choices. There are knight F6 or the bishop F6. Well, move B6 is not a good move because after knight takes D5, black immediately gets in trouble. After ED, there is a bishop takes H7 move, winning a pawn simply for white and taking the knight on C6. That's not acceptable for black, and taking with the queen is not much better because same queen C2 or maybe even bishop E4 first, attacking the queen. It's the same concept on a queen D6, now queen C2 attacking the knight and H7 pawn. So you shouldn't expect this to happen in your game because people that play that, they would play one of the bishop F6 or knight F6 moves. Well, bishop F6 move is an interesting move. There is some theory about it, and final word that white has some advantage. One of the promising moves is bishop E4. But since we want, the idea is that we want to bring you some exciting lines that are not very popular, is knight F6 move. Now white plays A3. Well, this move should be met by B6. This is the most natural move to develop bishop on B7. And now white has a couple of choices. Actually, this is the option for you. You can go to a little better endgame, or you can go to exciting middle game. And the choices start with the moves bishop C2 or the knight E5. Knight E5 is the line that will get you, with correct play on both sides, that will get you to better endgame. Well, black has to be very careful here. And, for example, move like knight takes D4 after bishop E3 will create very serious problems for black. Now white is threatening bishop takes D4. Followed by bishop takes H7 and winning the queen. So black is in a serious trouble here. They cannot play knight F5. Knight F5 actually they can play, but it's pretty bad after queen F3. We don't want to spend much time analyzing this. This is known as very bad choice for black. So after knight E5, if not knight takes D4, then bishop B7. So this is choice 1, your choice of playing knight e5, and now very strong move bishop a6. Black has choices to take on a6 or play queen c8. And of course, knight takes e5 is not acceptable because of bishop takes b7, and black loses material on rook b8, taking on e5. So let's look at two possible continuations, ones that we mentioned. First, bishop takes a6. That's not a good choice because white immediately gets sizable advantage after knight takes c6, knight takes e7, and after bishop g5, this pin with the bishop on g5 is very, very difficult to overcome by black. Anything like rook d8 may run into d5. Black has serious problems. Other than that, I don't know, what move like h6 will fail because of knight d5, and black is totally lost. That leaves black with only one valid option, which is queen c8. But then, after general exchanges, bishop takes b7 and knight takes c6, white plays d5, and you see that pawn on d5 cannot be taken because bishop on e7 is loose. Black simply loses a piece. So the best move for black is queen to c4 to keep protecting the e6 pawn. Then after queen e2, queen takes e2, rook takes e2, white is going to have some advantage. They can win a pawn, but after bishop c5, I don't think it's a good idea to take the pawn on e6 because of knight g4. So white should play something like bishop g5 or bishop e3, having minimal advantage over weak pawn on e6. If you really want to win, that's not how you should play. But now, let's get to the real quest for a serious advantage in middle game. The not bishop a6, but in this position, if white doesn't play bishop a6, so then there is no good way to play for advantage. So choice white has here, instead of knight e5, bishop c2. This is very, very tricky move. We had this move mentioned in a Crushing Lines, but now let me give you some update. Bishop b7 will be met by queen d3. And here, natural move like rook c8 will be disastrous for black. Black is nearly lost after d5. And you see knight cannot take on d5 because queen h7 mate. And if pawn takes bishop g5, threatening to take on f6 and mating on h7, g6 is out of question. because rook takes e7 is devastating. If knight takes, simply taking on f6, and if queen takes, knight takes d5, and total destruction. Well, besides g6, there is only one move, knight e4, and that too leads to terrible consequences. Knight takes e4, ge, queen takes e4. Now there is the threat of mate on h7, and g6 has to be played. Originally, on the video, I said that white gets winning advantage after bishop takes e7. They get winning endgame. But now, after bishop takes e7, black has to take with the queen. Queen takes e7. Knight takes e7. Rook takes e7. Bishop takes f3 has to be played, and after bishop b3, bishop a8, and rook takes a7, white has big advantage. They have extra pawn, very powerful rook on a7, weakness on f7. That should be enough to win. But in this position, white has even better move, which is queen h4, which should win game in next 2 to 3 moves. Now, the threatening the bishop on e7, and after taking on g5, black is absolutely lost. Well, this is like a 2 winning continuations, and obviously this is not good. Now, let me mention, in this position, after these variations become more or less known, there was big suggestion for black. Bishop a6 is a very strong move, and there were games played with bishop a6, and black did very well. So white tried different kinds of things, and they were not successful. However, we have some news for you. News is that white has an advantage here, and I will show you in a moment how, but with none of the previously tried attempts. b4 was tried previously, bishop g5 was tried, even bishop e3, but the move I would suggest, bishop f4, with completely different idea. If you ask anyone, what is the most natural move for black here? Of course, it's rook c8. And here comes unexpected solution. d5. This immediately sheds light on many things. For example, this pawn has to be taken by the pawn. Taking by knight is not good. In fact, it's pretty bad. Knight takes, and you will see if queen takes, it looks so good for black. They exchanged queens, they have extra pawns, but yet it's very, very bad for black. After bishop f5, immediately you will see that black is gonna lose material, big time. Rook is hanging. This is the continuation that was missed by the people who played that for white. This has never happened, by the way. On rook d8, bishop c7, and eventually rook has to go to a8. Rook e8 is out of question, of course. And when rook goes to a8, then white simply attacks the knight, and then the bishop is hanging. So this is, for example, something like bishop f6 will lead to bishop takes c6 and bishop d6. White has big advantage. So let's go back. As I mentioned already, knight takes d5 gives white big advantage, so ed has to be played. And now after ed, here is what's going to happen. Black's rook is attacked. The move is forced. Queen a4. You'll see that almost every move is forced now. Bishop b7 and rook a d1. Let's look at this position. Black has an extra pawn. Just compare position of white's pawn of pieces and black's pieces. White has a huge advantage. Every piece is placed perfectly. Black has difficulties just untangling their pieces. I don't think there is a big problem getting back a pawn on d5. This is something that will create serious problem for black. And now going back to this position and move bishop f4. I don't know how black can maintain equality. Bishop on f4 is very powerful. This is good suggestion, and as I said, every line that will bring you on this DVD does not guarantee big advantage or does not guarantee the incredible innovation, turning point of the opening. No. What we do here, we're trying to show you, I'm trying to show you lines that are very credible, very lively, gives you some advantage, and also in case of a little misstep by black, it will lead to immediate disaster for them. So this is another way of playing one of the interesting novelties. And novelty is bishop f4 with the idea of d5. Well, maybe my analysis here are not complete. They are 100% credible and double-checked and triple-checked. I double-checked on many engines, and they are 100% reliable. But unfortunately, I don't have the luxury to bring every variation everywhere what white should do. I gave you the critical points of it, and the rest you may have to do by yourself. There is one more line to add to this. In this position, as we mentioned, bishop a6 was the latest recommendation for black, and we already said we'll play bishop f4. And we also mentioned that bishop b7 will be met by queen d3 with a devastating threat of d5. So suppose black plays g6. How do we continue an attack here? And how can we get use of bishop on c2 and queen on d3, doubling on the diagonal that is solid, blocked by black with g6. We simply go bishop h6, rook e8, and rook a to d1. White is perfectly mobilized its pieces, and black has to do the same, which is not simple at all. Rook c8, by far the most natural move. And let me tell you about this position. I mentioned it a couple of times on my previous DVDs, but I don't think you guys have all my DVDs. So since it's about exciting lines and continuations, I want to recommend here knight g5 move, which is known in the theory and what was also known that this move was criticized by number of theoreticians. And the reason why this move was criticized was because of knight g4. Now, white's bishop on h6 has no good square, and protecting it is not good because knight will be hanging. But the problem with knight g4 move, that it loses. That's a big problem. Knight takes f7. This is a forced win by white. And now queen f3 check. Knight has to come back to f6, and here is d5. Pawn absolutely has to be taken. Well, because if knight moves, black simply loses a queen. And now white has to make the only move that wins, because there is very tempting rook takes d5 that in reality loses the game. White looks so good because you may think if queen goes to c7, then white has crushing rook d7, attacking the queen, and believe it or not, after queen takes d7, bishop b3 is a mate. Well, black can interpose the queen, which white will take with the bishop, and it will be a checkmate. But rook takes d5 looks like a crushing move. In reality, it loses, because after knight d4, everything is changed. Now black simplifies position, having big material advantage, and white is totally lost. And then again, that's why we said bishop b3 is a winning move, because on knight a5 there is no better move. Bishop takes d5, bishop takes d5, rook takes d5, and now queen is hanging, and whatever black does, they are totally lost. Bishop d6 is losing for black, as well as queen c7. Actually, knight takes d5. And now bishop d6 loses because of rook takes e8, queen takes e8, and queen takes f6. That's devastating. And so is every other move. Let's say in this position, black makes some attempt, like queen d6. White needs to approach this position calmly and not play knight takes e7 or knight takes f6. They are both terrible moves because on knight takes e7, rook takes e7, we have a different winner, which is black, because of back rank problem. Same thing will happen on knight takes f6, bishop takes f6. Black wins. But after g4, the same moves, knight takes e7 and knight takes f6 in effect, and they will win now for white because there is no back rank mate and black has no good choices. White wins. This line proves once more that in the position here where black has choices between bishop a6 and bishop b7, they have serious problem to figure out how to maintain playable position without getting immediate disaster. And this is highly recommended to play for someone who wants to explore new attacking possibilities. So I think this is a good suggestion to get in your opening repertoire.